If doing it with two British guys in the bathroom of a bar is on your bucket list, but you're broke and shy with an expired passport, then let me introduce you to Dipsea.
Dipsea is an app full of hundreds of short, sexy audio stories designed by women for women. They use realistic characters and immersive soundscapes that make you feel like you're really a part of the action.
You can find stories for whatever sexual fantasy you got rattling around in that pretty head of yours, whether it's rough sex, threesomes, or a spicy power dynamic. Dipsea has you covered. They also have a growing library of fantasy series with vampires, Greek gods, and fairy smut, which is right up our alley here at Honeydew Me, and we aren't ashamed to admit that.
No. When I'm sexually bored with my life, I search the wee corners of my brain to try to make up sexy daydreams, but Dipsea takes all the legwork out of it and gives me something to fantasize about immediately. And I can also enjoy the steamy twists and turns of the hookup story because I didn't have to write them.
No, you did not. Also worth mentioning are their soothing sleep stories, wellness sessions, and sexy written stories to read. I don't know what more you could ask for.
Nothing. For listeners of our show, Dipsea is offering an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/doomy.
That's 30 days of full access for free when you go to dipseastories.com/DEWME. That's dipseastories.com/doomy. Hello.
Hello, darling.
Welcome. We were harmonizing.
Welcome to our podcast.
Welcome to Honeydew Me. I'm Cass.
And I'm Emma, and this is Honeydew Me Podcast.
Yes, it is. It's Honeydew Me Podcast, where we talk about sex and doing it. And this month in particular, we are talking about pussing yourself out there.
Hell yeah, we are. Or in other words, putting yourself out there and really going after what you want, whether that's in dating, in your relationships, and getting the interactions, whether that's in sex. I'm saying whether that's in a lot. In sex, in just how you want your relationships to be. It's about putting yourself out there.
It's grabbing life by the horns.
By the horns. That's a good alternative for all other body parts that are usually there.
I know. I went through a couple in my head and I was like, you know what? It's grabbing life by the labes or it's grabbing life by the horns. And we'll go with horns today, labes tomorrow.
But there we go.
There we go. Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about something that just makes me tingle from my feet to my phalanges. We're talking about how to be a slut from literally the sluttiest person I know.
We are talking to none other than Zachary Zane, a.k.a. the Boyslut, author of Boyslut. You may remember him. He was on the podcast earlier this year to talk about toxic masculinity and just tons of really cool things, and it was such a fun episode. But if you don't remember him, Zachary Zane is a Brooklyn-based columnist, sex expert, and activist whose work focuses on sexuality, culture, and the LGBTQ community. Author of Boyslut, a memoir and manifesto. Such a good book. Such a good fucking book.
Yeah.
And co-author of Men's Health, Best Sex Ever. He writes Sexplain It, an advice column on men's health. He just has so much content out there, and it's such fucking good content. Oh my God. He talks about a couple of his social media, series that he does in this episode. And God, they're so good.
They're so good.
I love him.
Not only does our dearest Zachary Zane, who I love saying his whole name,
I know.
Have the best stories. He also just has very constructive advice onto how to put yourself out there in a slutty way and reframe what slutty means to you so that you could do it successfully for yourself. Also, we have to start a drinking game right now for the number of times he says boy slut. We already agreed on it in the episode, so I'm not being mean. He said we can start a drinking game. So just get your drinks, get whatever you have in front of you ready for the amount of times we talk about boy
You might
slut
want
in the
to
book.
mix in a little water. Just for
or
your
just
own
do water. You'll
safety.
just really flush yourself out.
Yeah.
But it is that good.
Wheatgrass shots.
Yeah, it's just such good information from such a great source. Stick around to the end where we get to his sluttiest moments.
A little slutty
there's
inspo.
nothing else to say.
Yeah.
Slutty inspo. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
All right. Well, that's all we've got. So we will see you on the other side.
Sure will. Bye, sluts.
Bye.
We're just going to start straight out with the basics. What is a slut? What does it mean to be a slut? Let's go there.
Sure. So I actually have a definition of it in my book, Boyslut, a memoir and manifesto, which you'll hear me plug a million times. But for me, slut is not necessarily about having a high body count. Of course it can be, but it's about having the sex that you want to have, as much or as little as you want, without any kind of undue influence from society. So it's you having this autonomy to choose your sexual lifestyle. And for me, that's what being a slut is all about.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned body count. I've talked about it on the podcast before. I don't have a very high body count, and I've been insecure about it when talking about sex because I'm like, well, I just don't have a lot of experience. So how could I possibly be slutty or sexy or any of those things that it's like, I would like to be those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really don't think being a slut is a way of mind, if you will. You know what I mean? So it is less about body count, about how you approach the world. Again, with a lack of judgment, with an openness, with realizing that everyone has their own desires and they might be different from you, and that doesn't make you worse or them worse or you better or them better. And it's so funny because, obviously culturally there's such different dynamics of how many people you should sleep with. And we think of it honestly, usually in the terms of Christian Puritan culture, we're told to not sleep with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But then I hear it from the reverse, from gay culture and gay men in New York, where it's just if they don't sleep with a lot of people, or they don't have an open relationship, they're accused of having internalized homophobia and being sex negative. And it's no, you don't have to be sleeping with everyone, but the shame that they experience for not being slutty enough, when they're just no, I'm actually happy with monogamy or with sleeping with a few guys, or only once I have an emotional connection, and how they've been accused of being having internalized homophobia, and that's not why they're sleeping with more men. And I'm like, Jesus, that's so absurd. It's so clear that those other guys are projecting and are nervous that they're sleeping with too many people, so therefore they shame the people who are not sleeping with enough people.
Right. It feels very layered, the word slut, because in middle school, high school, you were called a slut and you were embarrassed and it was weird and shameful and you were immediately self-conscious. And now I am opposite of Cass. I'm working on my body count, but I don't feel the sluttiness that makes me feel empowered or excited or fucking Cass called me a slut the other day in the best way possible. And she's in a good way. And that almost helped in a weird way, because I'm still it's still a funny feeling to be slutty era. I want to embody slutty era. So what does that confidence look like? What is that mentally?
The word is so stigmatized, right? As you say yourself, in middle and high school, you're called a slut, and that's the worst thing that can happen to you. And you're called a slut, whether or not you actually hook up with anyone, right? It's just a rumor.
You dance or you look at someone and it's slut.
And you're labeled this, and it seems like the worst thing that you can be. So to have this reclamation is very challenging. And that's why a lot of people still don't reclaim the word slut. And of course, they don't have to, right? That's I'm not forcing anyone else to do it. I'm also coming from a different lens, right? I am a guy. And so I haven't been called a slut, or I have been called a slut, but it's definitely a lot more playfully, more of a player or a Don Juan or something like that. So I understand that I'm coming from this kind of privileged perspective, and from someone who the word slut has not been used in a derogatory sense towards me. So just kind of having that caveat out there. And I think your question was kind of how to embody the slut mindset. But was that what it was? Sorry, I gave a little ramble there, but I think that was the question, right?
Yes, definitely.
I think part of it is also surrounding yourself with other sluts and finding that community and finding that people. You know what I mean? Because if you're the one slut of your friend group, and even if they're kind of supportive, or maybe they give you a little bit of side eye, the people in my life, every time I say the most disgusting, perverted, kinky thing I could possibly do, they're oh my God, that's fucking amazing. So you're getting kind of positive reinforcement for being a slut, or oh my God, that's so hot. I love that. I love that you were able to do that. Explore that. So I think it's very challenging, if you're trying to be in your slut era and you're surrounded by people who are shaming you, or even if they're not necessarily shaming you, it can be tough if they're not, I don't know, if they're not necessarily on the same page. So you share this story and they're like, oh, okay. Like no, I
Right.
want to share this story, and it's to be like met with such positivity and excitement. So I think,
and questions. It's like you want people to ask you, like, be engaged. Don't be afraid of asking me, like, how was the sex? How was the sex with that one? And then that one. Compare it. It's like, I want to talk about that.
yeah. So it's finding that community, and
Yeah.
that's why, like, I'm part of like the poly, bisexual, sex positive community in Brooklyn, and I absolutely love it here. Although there's a lot of drama in our community, I'll tell you that much. I'm always just like, all right, you guys, calm down. But like, there's a reason why I'm here, and the reason why, like, I'm sometimes telling people, like, get on FetLife, go to like Munches, or what they're called, which are like the non-sexual meetups. You get to know people in the community, because like people are like, how can I get invited to a sex club when there's like a you have to know people to get into it. And I'm like, well, that's a reason for safety. They don't want to let anyone in. Like, Zach, will you refer me? I'm like, I don't know you. You are a follower on Instagram, so I will not be doing that. But here are my recommendations. Here's how you actually meet people in a non-sexual setting, get to know them, and then they'll vouch for you. So, yeah, part of it is finding those friends and that community. That said, I also understand it's kind of like a privilege to be able to do that. You might not be in a place where, like, hey, I'm in Brooklyn, I'm in New York. I'm in like the bisexual, poly, sex positive capital of the world. Us in Berlin and Amsterdam, maybe. You know what I mean? So I understand, like, that's not necessarily feasible for anyone. But if you can somehow, it's really learning to unpack this shame, right, and figuring out where it is coming from. When you feel that guilt or that shame for doing something sexual, it's not actually your belief system. Most of the time, right? It's something where it's like, okay, this is what I think I should be thinking, or what I've been taught I should be thinking. Sometimes you hear it in your pastor's voice. You hear it in your mother's voice. You hear it in something else where you're like, okay, so this isn't actually my thought. So it's learning to develop kind of this independent critical thought where you are allowed to kind of make decisions for yourself in a way, and really coming up with your own belief system about what it means to be good, what it means to be slutty, what it means to be moral, what it means to be ethical, how to be an ethical slut, and then abiding by your own belief system, I think, is really important.
That sounds powerful too. I feel like that would give you the confidence, because when I embody like my slut era mentality, I picture just being very confident in my own decisions and being like a charismatic person to engage with out in the world. And so I feel like if you have your own set of values and rights and like manifesto that you live by, that's powerful, and that's like illuminates off of you as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's challenging norms. You know what I mean? We brought up learning all of these things about not just sex, but everything. And as an adult, it's being like, okay, what do I agree with and what do I not agree with? Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your journey to becoming a slut, and if you were just always slutty, or if that's something you grew into, and how other people can grow into their own sluttiness?
That's a great question, actually. I'm trying to think, like, of all the podcasts I've done, I'm like, have I been asked, like, my slut journey? It was, let's see, interesting. So I do talk about it, in my book, Boyslut. Sorry, only number 2. Plug.
Please plug
Keep
it.
going.
It's such a good book.
It's also
like, please plug the shit out of it.
We'll make it a drinking game in the intro.
Yeah.
So
okay, great. So everyone, please don't go to the hospital by the end. You'll need your stomach pumped. But so actually, it's interesting. I came from like my mom at like 16 and 17. If I was dating a woman, would always be like, hey, and she'd sit down the two of us and be like, hey, when you both like break up and start sleeping with other people, and we'd be like happily together, and I'd be like, what the fuck? But it's such a weird thing to say to your 16 or 17-year-old, especially your 17-year-old boy. And I kind of learned the reason why she ended up saying this, and I learned this later when I was going to college, is she was previously married. And she thought you had to marry the man you lost your virginity to. So she got married at 18. They were together for a year. They broke up. And I think she was so afraid of us, like her children, repeating that pattern. But to me, I didn't know this. To me, it was just like, you just keep telling me to break up and sleep with as many people as possible. So that's my takeaway from this, because you did not give me the full context of this story. So like I grew up in a way in a sex positive household. You know what I mean? Where it's definitely not like sex is just for marriage. But like still, you know, in high school I wasn't like the coolest, most confident dude there was. I was a little musical theater kid. Also like queer and figuring out my sexuality as bisexual, so that adds different layers of confusion going on to it. But I went to college, and I think a part of it was that was an interesting thing for me because all of a sudden, you know, in high school, everyone's known me since elementary school, the way we grew up, and I was that one kid. And then I went to high school, and then suddenly I was like considered attractive, and like people wanted to sleep with me, and I was like, this is crazy, this is absolutely insane. Like I didn't want this was happening. And then in college, you know, like everyone's fucking because it's college. You know what I mean? Like it, literally, we'd all just get drunk and have sex. And college, I didn't go there to learn. Like it's probably the most expensive sex worker I'd hired of $250,000. Like it's literally just you go to fuck, and everyone's fucking nonstop. So all of a sudden I was there and was able to have sex, and I was like, this is amazing. And like, and in a way, it wasn't necessarily from in the beginning. It wasn't necessarily coming from the healthiest place per se. I think I still definitely saw it as like, oh, I'm more of a man because I'm having sex. And I was doing it because it was something to do in that way, as opposed to now I'm doing it because it's a pleasurable experience and I treat my partners with respect and all that stuff. But initially I was obsessed with body count and getting my body count as high as possible. And I wasn't even focusing on the experience. I was more focused on like, oh, I'll be able to talk about the experience afterwards, which is not why you should be having. I mean, of course, do things for ridiculous stories, and I love doing that. But, you know, most of the time you're having sex, you're doing it because you want to, any of the million of valid reasons why you want to have sex, whether it is pleasure, whether it is connection, whether it is kink, exploration, whatever it is, that's all valid. But that kind of happened. And so that was interesting. But still, I think another element of my slut era came into it in two other parts. The first was this woman I was dating, sophomore year of college, second semester sophomore year, and we were dating maybe for like 4 months, and then we were away for the summer, and then I was studying abroad for 5 months. And I really missed her during all this time, and we sent emails to each other, and she actually flew out to Dublin. And when I got back, or whatever it was, oh no, so it was second semester, whatever it was. But anyway, when I got back, it was summer. And I kind of said foolishly, like, she thought we were immediately going to get back together versus we kind of separated while I was abroad. And I was like, well, because we don't live in the same, you live in SF and I live in LA, and essentially it's still long distance. Let's wait until we get back to college to kind of close up our relationship again. And she did not take this well. She was very, very upset and very hurt by the fact that I didn't want to immediately get back together with her now that I was back in the States. And I was like, oh, like, no, we can still be together. That sorry. And just the fact that I said it upset her. She's like, no, now that you've said it, like, I know what you really think. And I was like devastated. She broke up with me then. And I was like, no, like, we can be together. But she's like, no, it's clear that you don't. No, I do like you. I just like, what's the difference between me being in Dublin and me being in LA? Like, no. And like, I remember I cried the whole way home. Like, I think I left the trip early and like drove back from SF and just bawled in the car the entire way. Probably very unsafe drive. And actually, when I got back to school, I got drunk. Like, it was awkward on the second week. I got drunk and I was like, hey, can I really talk to you? And I go over to talk to her and she was like, hey, Zach, I'll be honest with you. Like, I begged her to get back together and she was like, no. She's like, also, in order to get over you, I had to kind of like play up all the things I don't like about you. And now I can only see you in that way. And whoa, I was
like right immediately just cut you right off.
She really did. Now she's happily married. So well, I don't know if she's happily married. She is married.
She is married.
But like and after that I was a little bit heartbroken, and it was now just senior year, where I was like, well, there's no reason for me to kind of fall in love again because I'll be moving to a different city anyway, so I'm just gonna be a big old slut. And I kind of leaned into that my senior year. And that was almost the beginning of my slutty era. Because I'm like, well, like, it's senior year. We're going to be moving to different cities. And so that was kind of the beginning of it. And I just really enjoyed it. And in hindsight, I'm really happy that she didn't get back together with me, because I also wasn't out as bisexual yet and still going through that journey. So that would have been, when I figured that would have been another layer to kind of go through. And I think I would like to it's glad that I had that figured out before dating seriously again.
Right.
So that was part of my slut era due to heartbreak.
It
And
always starts there. I feel that.
and then the last part of my slut era was, so I was dating this person, and we were monogamous. We dated for about a year, and after we broke up, I was she was a woman, and I'd come out as bi, and I was excited to start sleeping with men again. And I made it very clear to the men I was like sleeping or like casually dating that I did not want anything serious. I'm like, hey, I just gotta have a year-long relationship. I need to just have fun again. And two of the guys I was more casually dating like asked to be my boyfriend after a few months. And I told the first one, like, no. Like, I made this very clear, I thought. And the second one, like, I brought to tears when I said no. And I was like, sad, but at the same time I was kind of pissed. I was like, I communicated this. This is not fair for you to kind of dump those emotions on me when I made it so clear from the get-go that this is not what I was looking for. So after that, I kind of said to myself, like, all right, I'm not dating anyone because this is pissing me off. like I'm just gonna have guys come over on Grindr, just like fuck them, then they leave, like no dates, no nothing. And this is actually, I know this is a long answer here, but like I've never got to tell all of the story together, so this is just illuminating for me so as fun. Well. And then what happened was I ended up meeting this guy, and I talk about this in the book, Boyslut, a Memoir Manifesto, and like, but this is how I almost got into my poly journey. And I got into poly for the wrong reasons, but to make this section of the story shorter, I met this man who had a wife and a girlfriend. And when I met him, he was with his boyfriend, and he lived with the wife and girlfriend. And I was just enamored. I asked to interview him. I was just beginning my career as a writer and journalist. I ended up meeting the whole polycule, all of them together. And I was like, okay, I don't think polyamory is right for me. And the reason why I thought it wasn't right for me at the time was I kind of saw how when like one partner got a kiss, the other partner got a kiss. And if one partner says, I love you, and they're like, oh, I love you too. And I just felt like it had to be very equal. And that felt very stressful. And I was like, oh my God, behind this facade, they must be crying and having hard conversations all the fucking time. And this just seems like too much work. But I kept hanging out with them because they were cool. And then when, what's his fake name in the book? I almost said his real name. Connor, I believe his fake name in the book is. After like just hanging out with them because I liked them and they were fun and sex positive, invited me out on a date. I actually said yes, even though I was in my no dating mode, because I was like, he has a wife and a girlfriend he lives with, a boyfriend, and like multiple other partners. The man doesn't have time to breathe, let alone have a serious relationship. So it felt very safe. I'm like, there's literally no possibility of him being like, be my boyfriend, and then me being like, no. Of course, that's not what happened. We ended up, one date led to two. We ended up seeing each other nearly every day. I ended up he and his girlfriend broke up. I moved in with him and his wife, lived there for a year. But I started polyamory because I thought it wasn't a serious relationship or couldn't lead to a serious relationship, when in fact, that's exactly what happened. So that was actually my slut into polyamory journey. And now I'm a slutty polyamorous person. There we go. A long story there.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Honestly, in your recall is like very impressive.
Yes.
I have zero recall.
It's like, these are also just like big points in my life. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, I do remember the big points. If you asked me what I had for breakfast yesterday, I'd be like, I have no idea. If you ask me where I am at any given moment, what day of the week it is, zero idea.
Zero idea. But I do feel like even though people might not walk the same like events that you went through, it hit a lot of key points as to why people might start engaging in like a sluttier era, breakup, interest, curiosity, enamored with like another situation.
And then you learn to love it, right? So whether or not like I went into it for the quote unquote right reasons, it's like my heart's broken, so I'm doing this, but then you learn to have a healthy relationship with your sexuality. You learn to have pleasure with it. You learn to enjoy it. You learn to communicate with your partner so everyone's on the same page, all of this stuff. So it's almost doesn't necessarily matter how you get there, as long as, once you're there and you learn to engage with it in a healthy manner, which I learned to do as well.
Absolutely. One thing that keeps me going throughout my days, both as a human and someone that's happy, is repeating things to myself. like mantras to keep me going. So if we want to be in our slutty era, what are some slutty mantras we can say for ourselves to like keep our morale high, you know?
Oh my God. What are some slutty mantras? I have some mantras I say to myself, but they're not necessarily slutty.
That's
They're
okay.
just,
You're a slutty person, so it could
yeah,
work.
yeah, I'm a slutty person. For me, I mean, I'll start with the mantras I say to myself, and this is usually actually for anxiety, which people are surprised that I have, because when it comes to like dating, relationships, and sex, I'm very not anxious. I'm very confident in those ways. But then in other aspects of my life, I have anxiety. I just don't have social anxiety the same way. But one thing that kind of helps me out when I'm spiraling or something like that is I always say, slow down. Just whatever to slow down, breathe. You don't have to be perfect. I think for me, there's always this idea of you have to, like, you don't have to be perfect. And sorry, the last section of that is people will always love you. Because I feel like a lot of my fear is that if I'm not perfect or the best or great at everything, that I will lose love and support from my family, my friends, my peers, whatever that is. And I know that's not the case, but of course that kind of comes down to that. That's where this perfectionism comes from. And I could see that also being helpful in a slut context. You know what I mean? But like, I'm a slutty person and I have hurt people. I've hurt a lot of people. That's never my intent to hurt people. I do not try to lie to people. I try to be as upfront and honest, but when there are emotions involved, people get hurt. And I realize, in hindsight, I shouldn't have done that. I made that mistake. I should have communicated this beforehand. And I would see myself getting very down and being like, hey, like, and especially because I think I'm a sex and relationship, quote unquote expert. I usually like the word columnist because I am a columnist, but like, because of this, I almost hold myself to a higher standard where I'm like, every relationship I'm in should be absolutely perfect and no tears and no arguments. And we're going to communicate everything and no feel. It's like, that's just not how it works. So I think if you can give yourself some grace and ability to make mistakes as a slut, I think that would be really helpful, knowing like, yeah, you know what, I put myself in this riskier situation that I should have, and I'm going to learn from that. And that doesn't necessarily mean you stop being a slut altogether. It means, okay, now I know what situations I can be in, which ones I can't. I really hurt this person's feelings, and that was because I didn't convey what I was looking for from the beginning. Okay, so you made that mistake and learning from it. So I think don't necessarily let your mistakes then inhibit you or make you think that you're not cut out for this. Just acknowledge that you make mistakes and then do your best to learn from them and try to not make those mistakes again if you can help it.
What if those mistakes are kind of the opposite, but like you catch feelings for people easily and you don't want to, or they've made it clear and you've made it clear that's not what you're looking for, but you still, there's something in you that catches feelings. Emma, stop making that face at me. I'm talking about Emma.
It's the same thing. You're making a mistake, right? Like, you're learning from your mistakes and having the wherewithal to say, hey, this is not a relationship I want to be in. I actually wrote just like an article about this for like my blog recently, because I spoke about how I've this idea that, when things keep happening to you, quote unquote, it means like, well, I'm the common denominator here. So what am I doing wrong? And that if all these things just keep happening to me, the same things, it's like, okay. I was talking about how I felt like I was setting very clear boundaries with people or what expectations, and then they'd want a more serious relationship, kind of what I discussed before. And that's been a trend in my life. And I think a lot of it is because I can be very cutesy when I'm with you. And when I'm with you, we have that dynamic. But then when I'm not with you, I'm doing other things. I'm not necessarily texting you all the time. I don't want to see you all the time, but I can be very present and very cutesy when we're together. So it's kind of like this mismatch, seemingly, where it's like, he doesn't want to be with me romantically long term or whatever he says. But then when he acts like this, so then people, so I'm like, hey, what am I doing to attract this? Maybe I should be less cutesy with people. Maybe I should be clearer. Is it the onus on me when I see them getting feelings for me to break up with them? That almost seems like taking the autonomy away from them, in a sense, being like, you're a child and you can't handle this. When I try to reaffirm my boundaries, it's always weird to be like, it sounds like you're falling in love with me and you're lying to me about it. Just want to confirm you're not. Like, there's no way to do it without sounding like a fucking asshole. Yeah. But I spoke about how when I've had this happen, I convey these things. One of three things happen when I'm dating someone, we're starting out. The first one is they say like, hey, I'm on the exact same page. Great. And those people who are not lying, who are on the exact same page. Then there are people who say like, shit, I really like you, and I'm not looking for anything casual. I'm really looking for a serious partner. And if that's not you, it's a bummer, but I'm going to break up with you now. And it seems like that's something that you should be learning from, and learning how to say that, as opposed to the latter, which is what happens the most, is people saying, oh, I'm fine with this, when in fact they are not fine with this. Maybe they don't know they're not fine with this, but even when they learn they're not fine with this, they still continue and don't break things off there. So this is one of those things, if you find yourself in this situation, becoming that middle group, like allowing yourself to be like, hey, I really want a serious partner, which means I can't date this person because I have too many feelings for this person, and I don't want to be here yearning and hoping that they're going to change their mind, or I'm going to change their mind if they spend enough time with me. And that's a really hard thing to do. But if you get in the habit of being like, no, my end goal is a serious partner, they don't want to, don't be friends. That's going to be too hard for you. You know what I mean? Like, or you can do whatever the fuck you want. But in my experience and from what I've heard, it's just be like, hey, I really appreciate it. And then do not talk to them, because otherwise you're going to prolong this hurt and this feeling and this longing, and you're doing it to yourself. You don't want to do this to yourself. You want to focus on that serious partner you're attempting to find.
Mm-hmm. I think it can be tricky being someone, pointing at myself because Cass wouldn't, so I'll point at myself.
It was we've been talking about it. I did not ask it. I wanted to make sure it was asked. Didn't know what to do.
Being someone who does typically seek out relationships and then wanting to be in this like dating around slutty era and kind of getting confused, like where your priorities are in the moment. And I guess I don't even know where I'm going with this, but that's my explanation, is that when I'm dating around, I tend to, like you're saying, be really cutesy with people when I'm with them and present. And then I'm like, God, that probably means I'm going for a relationship. And then that's not necessarily what I want. So I'm kind of confused. I'm trying to do this slutty era thing. And then it's just like a jumble. So your mantra anyway of like, stop, it's okay. Like, to me, I just need to like stop and think and process. I always want to figure shit out in the moment. That's also my problem, is that I like stop, try to write everything and categorize it. And then I feel like I have to do like, oh, I either need to break up or tell them I'm being slutty. Like, we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
I hate that.
It's tough, and sitting with the ambiguity is so, in anything, is so challenging. You know, as someone with anxiety and OCD, like I want to figure out everything absolutely immediately. For me, because it's different, because I don't think you're poly or open necessarily the same way. So I'm allowed to be a slut within my committed partnerships. Yeah. So I am having my cake and eating it too, in a sense. But there still are problems. You know, I've still had issues in my relationships where, because I'm too slutty for my other partners in a way where they necessarily get jealous, or they want to have more sex with me than I want to have sex with them because I'm having sex with other people. But I'm like, oh, I want to prioritize this partner, or feeling like I'm getting a little slut shamed, or if like they're just struggling to find another partner or to get laid or going through a dry spell, like it's very easy to then get frustrated at me if I'm not doing it, you know, if I am sleeping with a lot of people. But it's, one thing I realized for me personally right now, and like as I'm looking for relationships, I'm kind of looking for things to be a little bit easier. You know what I mean? Like yes, we can always communicate and have talks, but like I would like a somewhat more easier relationship. And I think that's an okay thing to ask for, right? With just less drama and conflict. And I've realized one thing for me is finding someone who's as slutty or not sluttier than me just avoids a lot of conflict in a way that like it's almost becoming a prerequisite of anyone I date. Like, I need you to be a fucking full-on slut, so that way there's no jealousy or animosity or envy or whatever it is, and you understand what I'm doing, I understand what you're doing, you're going out, I'm going out, we can do things together. And I've realized that my healthiest relationships is when they're also very slutty. Again, that doesn't have to be the case. You can absolutely have a one partner is slutty, one partner is even asexual, while the other person goes out, does their own thing. And that can work. It just hasn't been working for me. So at this point, okay, let's try to learn and let's try to make things a little bit easier for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Easier sounds better.
Yeah. I think the idea that relationships take work was like something that really fucked with me. When people would always be like, relationships take work. And like, of course they fucking take work. Obviously they take work. But I didn't realize I've been in relationships for like so long, and we're arguing and we're crying every day and we're hitting our head up against the wall. I'm like, well, relationships take work. And it's like, they should take work, but not that much work. And if you are arguing every day, if you're crying every day, if you're never on the same page, like, no, that's when you break up. You know what I mean? So like, I almost internalized that message a little bit too much. So now I'm kind of trying to reel it back in and be like, yeah, of course they take work. I know that, but it should not be that much work, all things considered. You know what I mean? There is a balance that I'm trying to find.
That's a really good point. Like, how much work, what type of work are we talking about? And this reminds me of that trend on TikTok right now. I think it's like a Moana sound, and it's all about like just never leaving. And it's like all these couples posting like, and no one leaves. And it's like, whoa. And they just say all of the horrible things that have happened in their relationship. And then they're like, but no one leaves. It's like, are we sure we're like super happy with that? Like, is that the goal? Like, just no one leaves ever, no matter what happens? It just doesn't sound great.
This is a completely different tangent, but what you said, Zach, like in Cass as well, it hit a nerve where it's like, you think that you aren't, at least for me, I wouldn't be deserving of an easy relationship. So therefore, I'm in this relationship that takes so much fucking work, and I'm like at my last fucking thread. And that's what I deserve, because this is what a relationship is when it's going to be with me. It's a lot of work. But it's like, no, easy. I'm easy. Relationship should be easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, not of course there are going to be drama and tears and cries and arguments, but just that middle ground. That's what I'm trying to search for, and I'm still struggling to find it. So it's challenging for sure.
What are some ways, getting back into just the slut of it all? That's
a great name for a podcast.
That is a fun name. What are some ways that we can embody sluttiness throughout the day? Obviously, you gave us a much more expansive definition of slut than I think a lot of us probably came in with. But just some ways that we can like feel into our sluttiness in our day-to-day lives.
I think almost allowing yourself to be a horny little perv, I think could be a fun thing. And it could be because I'm also watching the new season of Big Mouth that just dropped. I don't know if you guys watch that show. It is phenomenal.
We love that show.
I'm obsessed. I absolutely love it. I'm devastated it's ending, and I really was hoping to be a staff writer on that show, and now I won't be able to. But and I just kind of see them, and it's just they're so unabashedly horny in their daydreams, in their thoughts, and just allowing yourself to be that, giving yourself permission to kind of be horny and pervy. Obviously, when I say this as a state of mind, don't fucking perv on people, don't assault people, don't be an asshole. It's the internet, right? People are gonna somehow be like, Zach is encouraged. No, I'm not encouraging any of that shit. But like,
said I could.
You're allowed to think whatever the fuck you want in your mind, and allow yourself to do that, and allow yourself to do it without shame. So I think, like, be horny, I think is what it is. And let yourself have that, and permission to do that, I think, is a big one. What else? I'm trying to think of, like, walking around in my horny state, in my slut state. I know a part of it is also, I think, if you can embody this level of confidence, which is a whole nother topic and conversation about how to build confidence, how to talk to people, you know what I mean? There are entire books on that. I'm not going to be able to, like, if you're socially awkward or nervous about dating or talking to people, like, I'm not going to be able to solve that in a few sentences here. But like, I almost feel like this level of, like, the sluts I meet, they are confident people, or at least they are projecting confidence. They are exuding confidence. They're like, I think it's part of, like, owning your shit, owning your kinks, owning your sluttiness. It's that mindset of just like, I deserve this. I can be horny. I can be pervy. I can enjoy this. And so, I think having that mindset can be helpful.
I love that.
I've definitely noticed that on days that I've like listened to a Dipsy audio erotica or something in the morning. And you just kind of carry that with you and you make everything a little bit flirtier. And that's what I enjoy, that part of like sluttiness. I don't know, like you order a coffee and you wink a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun. And I mean, like, I always think, like, sexting throughout the day if you have partners. It doesn't have to be something that's just like limited to the bedroom. I think sluttiness, yeah, can be any aspect of the day. Obviously, I don't do this that much. And it's always one of those like sex toy recommendation things that people always say. I'm like, how many people are actually doing this? But like, if you have one of those sex toys that have a Bluetooth and your partner's controlling it, like, obviously that's some slutty ass shit right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point of it, I think, is maybe bringing this mindset also outside the bedroom. Because sometimes it's like, okay, we have sexy time and that's sex and that's with my husband at this point in the evening. And then the rest of the time, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not slutty. I'm not horny. I only allot this one time. So I think carrying it out throughout the day is a way to kind of embrace it as well.
Totally. If we were, and I know this is going to vary from person to person, but if we were to have like a slutty checklist of things to do that can help us kind of like drop into either our horniness or our like own sensuality, what can we do that's like, I don't know, 3 tiers, like very easy to maybe a little bit saucier? That could be like a fun, like slutty little checklist.
Oh my
Thinking
God.
actionable steps.
Oh my God, I don't know. I have to think about this. Hold on. All right. So actionable steps of a slutty checklist.
Like we could do like day-to-day things like while you're just out running errands. What's something like, how can you make that a little sluttier?
How can you make your day-to-day? I think I'm not sure. I think a body check-in can honestly be helpful. And just seeing like how your body is feeling, and then focusing energy potentially on your genitals, on your nipples, on whatever it is. So actually getting more bodily aroused. And again, I'm not saying masturbate on a bus, but like I am saying, there are degrees here. You know what I mean? But like, but if there's a way to be like, yeah, I think having focus potentially on some erogenous zones and getting yourself aroused through thinking about your body. I think, potential little daydream, I think is always fun. It's, if you see someone you're attracted to and letting your mind kind of go into la la land for a moment, if you're just sitting on the train, could be like a fun little way to just kind of get yourself in a horny mindset. Yeah, potentially, sending nudes, sexting, something like that. Again, if you have a partner, or even if you don't necessarily have a partner, if you want to even do it with people you don't know super well on hookup apps, dating apps, if you feel comfortable doing so, and flirting and sexting that way is a fun way to kind of be in that mindset. It's like there's certain things that also make me feel sluttier, where it's just like the way that you dress. Like, if I'm wearing a thong or a jock strap underneath my gym shorts, it's like I feel like a slut. Like you know what I mean? And again, I'm not like no one knows I'm wearing this. You know what I mean? Just I know I'm wearing it. So I don't know if you're wearing something, sexy or lacy, or some sexy lingerie under your work outfit, whatever it is, I think can be a way to be like, oh, I have this little secret going on right here, and no one knows that I have this little secret, and it feels good against my body. I think that could also be a fun way. So wearing some little slutty undergarments, that are just for you.
Hell yeah.
I like those. Those are really
That
fun.
would be really fun. Yeah.
You have a series on Instagram that I see on occasion of people submitting like really slutty experiences. And
Slutty Sundays. Yes.
Yes. And it's so fun and I love reading them. I'm wondering if you can give us some examples of your slutty experiences, just some fun, inspirational slut moments.
Oh my God. Yeah, okay, so every Sunday, unless if there's a reason why not, like I do Slutty Sundays where I have people write in with their wildest, sexual experiences, stories, fantasies, kinks, desires, or any slutty questions that they have as well. And I go and just, most of it's me just being like, oh shit, you did that? Fuck yeah, that's awesome. I didn't even know that was a thing. Okay, come through. Like, most of it's just me being like, God damn, y'all are slutty. I love it. And it's always fun just because you kind of think you know everything when it comes to like sex. And I'm like, this point I've been writing about sex, researching sex, reading books about sex for forever, and then someone will write in with like a new kink I haven't even heard of, or doing something completely wild, and I'm like, it's exciting to know that there's always more. So if if your sex life is getting boring, I'm like, that is on you, because there are just so many things you could be doing. The sky truly is the limit. But cast your question. Sorry, as I'm rambling here, I'm trying to think. So it was like, what are some slutty stories of mine, or just what are some slutty? Oh my god!
Just like some slutty inspo moments.
Inspo moments. I think. What's like a slutty inspirational moment that was just like, I think sometimes just like at sex parties when you just kind of see some people going the fuck at it in the center of the room, I'm always just like, yeah, that's awesome. All right, I'm gonna try to do this too, and then I bring my partner, being like, let's fuck next to them, let's see what's happening, whatever it is. But I just think, yeah, when I see people exuding sexual confidence and just fucking doing it everywhere, I think that's so hot. What are some like slutty inspirations? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure about actual like I feel like I'm my own inspiration. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I meant moments to inspire us. Sorry, I meant like your slutty moments that we can be inspired by. I have a million.
That makes more sense. I
was
like, I don't know what's slutty inspiring to me. Okay, sorry. So I also have, as I'm plugging everything, I also have like this non-fiction erotica zine. It's like a blog that I do on Substack, but I have other writers who write into it too, which is also called Boyslut, which is either great marketing and advertising or very confusing branding. I don't know which one it is.
We'll go with great marketing.
Yeah. Very cohesive. No, but like, so it's me and then other writers who like submit in, and we share real life sex stories. And it was this thing I kind of started as this fun little side thing, and then it kind of blew up, and people absolutely love it, especially because like erotica is not like nonfiction. Erotica isn't a genre. You know what I mean? Like erotica has to be fiction. If it's nonfiction erotica, it's like, excuse me, it's like a collection of essays or something, and that's really not what this is. This is some erotic shit. So, some fun slutty things have happened, and I think always, like, again, it's just being open-minded and realizing, like, oh, I didn't think I was going to be into this, but now I am. But I was at this, like, party with some friends. Actually, no, we rented a cabin up in the Poconos, essentially for all of us to go and have sex, and it was great. But we have theme nights, and one of them was, like, circus-themed. So I got pegged by a clown. And like, if you had told me like I want to fuck Pennywise a week earlier, I'd be like, no, probably not. Like I'm more into Tim Curry as Dr. Frankenfurter than I am for him as Pennywise in It. And it's like there's a point where like I'm on my back and she's pegging me with like this massive purple dick, and like she has like a nose, fucking a clown nose, and she has the white makeup on her face. And I'm like so turned on, and like I'm like trying not to laugh because it's a weirdly like somehow serious moment, and I do laugh a little bit. But I bring this up for slutty inspiration just because, one, I just wrote about it recently, so it's on my mind. But two, to be like, you never fucking know what's gonna turn you on. And again, I haven't done any clown play since then, but I'm now open to it. Like why the fuck not? I don't know. I've almost reached a point where everything in my life, everything's hot. Everyone is hot. I don't know what's happened, but it's just like someone tells, oh, that's hot. I fucking love it. Oh, you like this? Oh, that person's hot. Like and it's a blessing. It's a beautiful thing where somehow I've been able to like expand my mindset where I've almost like eroticized or fetishized every single thing and person that like that's allowed for such a fun new experiences, which is like pretty cool. But that was a fun little slutty thing.
Yeah.
I had a fun slutty story where I was in Greece and Athens for my birthday. I was there with a friend, And he ended up going to bed at 4. And he was straight, but I went to one of like the gay saunas, and I was like, sucking everyone off and getting all the dicks, and just like, and like, best part was afterwards, it's closing at 6, and I'm like, oh, I have an Airbnb. You guys come back over to my place. They invited some friends over. And the funniest thing was when the guys come over, like 3 hours later, we've been up for forever. The guy comes over, he's like, hey, great to meet you, by the way. And he points, and I had jizz on my face for at least like 4 hours that no one had said anything. Because like the last time someone came on me, I'm thinking, that was 5 o'clock. These guys came over at 9 or 10. And I literally had jizz on and I could not, like, happy birthday to me. So just know that you can be walking around in the morning and talking to a lot of people with jizz on your face and not know it. And that's the slutty inspo I'm going to give you.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up with that.
Perfect. That was beautiful. Happy fucking birthday.
Thank you.
Fucking
My
birthday.
30th birthday too. Oh no, 31st. That was 31st. Okay.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Holy shit, that's amazing.
Oh, so it really was.
It really was.
It really fucking was.
Wait, so did you start at 5 p.m.?
Oh, no. I was up, because we went out, like, I think we went to the club at, like, 1. We'd napped during the day, and I went to the sauna at, like, 4 a.m. And, like, my whole time thing was off because I was also jet lagged, too. I think I took an Adderall to stay up because I was, like, trying to do that. So I was like, woo, let's go. And then I think I went to bed at, like, 10 a.m., like, noon that day. God. And I was like, well, now I'm going to be jet lagged forever. I did this to myself.
I did this to myself.
But also, like, I landed the night of my birthday. I wanted to have a fun night. I took a nap. It was a long, fun evening.
Oh, that sounds great. I was going to say 5 p.m., not to like time shame, but that feels a little like not the sluttiest hour.
Not with that attitude. See, you really got to
I guess that's true.
Yeah, any hour is the slutty hour.
Any hour is the slutty hour. Oh, that's so funny. Cass, did you want to hit on anything else?
No, I feel like we covered so much. I'm obsessed.
I know.
I'm sure I could come up with a million more questions, but
I know.
I feel so sluttily inspired.
Sluttily inspired.
I'm glad.
Deep down to my core.
Where can our listeners continue connecting with you after this episode to get all the slutty content? Where can they get your book? All of those things.
Sure. So I'm on Instagram at Zachary Zane _ at the end. My book is called Boyslut, one word, because Amazon actually like dings you if you have a curse word in it. Like it would not have shown up. So like, yeah, and this was actually a whole ordeal. So like people are like, I can't find it, and it's because there's still sex negativity at Amazon. You know what I mean? So Boyslut, one word. You type that in. You can buy it at all bookstores. You can find it at your library. You get it off of Amazon. I also read the Audible. If you do enjoy my voice, you can hear me reading it. Again, I have that like digital zine voice. If you just type in Boyslut, one word, you'll find 10 million things about me. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
You'll be there.
But if you subscribe to my Substack, you can get my kind of kinky erotica where I share the story about having cum on my face and getting pegged by a clown and so much more. I'm also the sex and relationship advice columnist at Men's Health. I know we discussed this. And also I read a non-monogamy column at Cosmo. But yeah, so Zachary Zane, Boyslut, Google me. You'll find everything there is to know about me and so much more about me than you probably even wanted to know. So enjoy that as well.
Hi, sluts.
Hi.
We made it to the end.
We did. So good. So fucking good.
So fucking good. And just... I love that I said I was working on my body count. I don't know necessarily if I am, but I appreciate that I was confident in saying such a thing.
Yeah, you slut.
On my business platform.
Yeah.
So what can I say? Zach brings the slut out of me. So thank you, Zach, for being here today. Yet again, we love hanging out with you. And thank you to our listeners for coming back another week.
You can head on over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify to rate, review, and subscribe to Honeydew Me. You can leave us a written review if you're real nice and you want to be extra slutty. And you can also watch us on YouTube, and you can blow us kisses at the moon, and we'll catch them.
Oh, that was so nice to hear. How ethereal. So yeah, do all those things. And I guess we'll just see you next week.
I guess we'll
for
see
our
you
final
then.
week. Nope, not our final week because there's 5 fucking weeks in November.
There are a
I
lot
know that
of
to be
weeks.
true.
Well, there are at least a lot of Wednesdays, which are the days that we release episodes. So you get 5 November episodes from Honeydew Me. You're welcome.
Fuck yeah. Also, today's my birthday if you're listening on Wednesday, November 15th.
Woo! Happy
When this episode
birthday,
comes
Em.
Thank you. Just had to throw that out there because
Yeah.
that's the attention slut in me. All right. Love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
So off.